Hey, everybody, welcome to Read This, Read That. Oh, no, wait. A 3, a 2, a 1. Everybody, welcome to Read This, Read That.
I know, I'm scared. Like, what happened? Go ahead.
I know. I am Jackie Reed.
And I'm Joyanne Reed, and I'm very confused by all of this.
Without the countdown, it's just confusing.
It's true. It's not real if we don't count.
How are you? You have a different background because you are in a different place. You're in the New York area. You had another drive.
I did another road trip with the great Wanji, and we were on the road, and we actually got here in less than 5.5 hours. So I'm actually very proud.
I love that. I love that. You would have gotten there sooner had you left when I told you to, but that's neither here nor there. What's your wine that you say? A firm but fair?
Yeah. So my wind down is another trip that I did earlier this week. I had to fly from Atlanta because I was in Atlanta for the power of the people, for the
State of the People
power tour, for the state of the I always want to call it Power of the People, for the State of the People power tour. Did the Atlanta stop. It was really great. I mean, Atlanta was phenomenal. It was fabulous. We talked to the people. I did the first day was the plenary session. Second day we had a great rally. It was phenomenal. So I'm on my way home from that. And girl, who should be on my flight but Marjorie Taylor Greene? She left her husband for, not the first one she left her husband for, the other one that's the journalist, the guy from the right-wing media.
Yeah.
They were the first people to get on the plane. And of course, we're sitting in first class. I hope that was a upgrade or that he paid for it so that it was not the American people and our tax money paying for her to ride in first. She was sitting right in the first row of first class on my flight. And so the daughter, sister, and I get on the plane. And first of all, we're standing there and we see this woman from across the way preparing to get on the flight when they call for first class. And so we're preparing to also, board first. And I said, is that Marjorie Taylor Greene? And not even the daughter assistant, but another woman next to me said, yeah. Black woman said, yeah, it is. And then I said, well, I hope that the plane makes it safely, and she said, you know what, I agree. And so we started talking about how we are going to be prayed up to get on this flight. But then we realized that we're probably safer. Probably the safest place to be in the world is on a flight with her because, the right has the best luck in the world. So we're like, we probably are safer getting on the flight with that lady and her mans. But yes, we got on the flight and yes, ma'am. Yes, question you.
When did your eyes meet? When did she realize you were on that plane and when did that happen?
So it's funny because when I first boarded the flight, I didn't notice her sitting in the first row because, my peripheral vision is terrible. So I walked right by her and went to my seat and didn't notice it was her. I even got up because, perimenopause, had to get up for a pee-pee break and still didn't notice her. I did not notice that lady was on the plane until it was time to leave the flight. When the flight was over and she and the boyfriend got up and I was like, they were in first because I was texting with the family on the family group chat. Like, you will never believe who's on my flight. Texted them and they're like, she better be sitting there. Their comment was she better be sitting in regular class because she's not supposed to be flying first on the public dime. Then when she got up with her mans, that's when I realized that she was on the flight too. Now she was not making eye contact with me at all. At no time did she attempt to make eye contact with me that I noticed.
But did she know you were on that plane? That's what I want to know.
I'm thinking she must have, because when I looked over and they were about to get in the flight, they did look over toward me. And so she must have seen me getting on the flight too. And I'm sure in her group chats, she was also texting, you'll never believe who's on this plane. And she would have seen me getting up and going to the restroom and going and sitting back down. She would have just been looking right in my face. So even though I have bad peripheral vision, that don't mean she does. So I'm assuming she knew I was on the flight. And when we went to go get our bags, she and her dude were like leaned up against the wall. And they definitely saw me when I walked by to go right to the exact same baggage claim they were at. So I'm sure she did. She did not attempt to make eye contact. She did not attempt to do one of her, attacked Black woman things that she normally likes to do when she's sitting on the dais. She said nothing to me. I said nothing to her. We got their safety. The devil takes care of his own. So we were probably the safest place we could possibly be was on that flight with her.
Wow.
Yeah. She got the downstairs good luck.
That's crazy. I did not see that coming.
They're the only other time. Well, I've flown a couple of times with some of the bad guys, with some of the baddies, and you always, what you do notice about them is they just have a certain sort of air about them of it's like they walk around like they own the world. You know what I mean? This is a lady getting on a flight with like 95% Black people coming from Atlanta, and they just sort of have an arrogant air. There's just something about them that just tells me these are not nice people. You know what I mean? Like the way she treats Jasmine Crockett when she's on the dais as a congresswoman, the way she acted toward AOC and others, trolling her and going to her door and banging on the door and being just a straight up troll. It embarrasses me that this is a member of Congress and that that's the way she behaves as a congresswoman. So I'm just actually glad she didn't try it on that flight and try to have a viral moment for herself and make a name for herself on that day. Because I had time that day had she decided to go there.
Yeah. Yeah. That would have been interesting. That would have been interesting if you guys were seated like not next to each other, but across the aisle from each other or something like that.
Let me tell you, this is how I know that, listen, that the Lord looks out for me, that God loves me, because he did not put me next to that woman on that flight. He said, no. He said, let me go and put you a couple seats back and let you just live your life and have a good flight with your daughter's sister. You don't need to be next to that.
to that woman,
and the dude was like a right-wing troll media guy. So I was like, thank you, Jesus.
That's her boyfriend or husband?
I don't know if they're married yet, because you remember she was Marjorie Taylor Greene because she was married to someone named Greene. But I think she might be just Marjorie Taylor now, because I know she done dumped the previous one for a different person, and we don't know what's happening in the relationship. There have been so many. But let's hear your wind down, my friend.
Well, I had a pretty uneventful week since last we met. I mean, I traveled to New York for a very special event. I got together with you while you were in Atlanta for the State of the People tour and had a delicious vegan dinner at the Four Seasons, where she gave me a hard time the whole time because she was like, I don't know how you eat that food, because they didn't really have any great vegan options there. So I got, which is what vegans know this all too well. It's like your backup plan is always French fries. But the salad I had was so amazing. So it was good food. I love hanging out. We had a good time with your daughter. It was great conversation, even though you were about to pass out while we were sitting there from fatigue. But yeah, girl, pretty uneventful. I'm just, in good spirits, just loving life, happy that it's warming up.
Yes.
All the good things. All the good things.
And by the way, what are you drinking?
Girl, I'm already finished with this. I got to get a refill. My Primo Pave, the sparkling rosé that I love so much. What about you? What you drinking?
So this is very strong. I'm not a tequila girl, but this is a grapefruit infused tequila. So I'm going to taste test it live on Read This, Read That. So I'm going to give it a taste. I'm not a tequila girl. A lot of people love tequila. I don't, but I'm going to give it a try. And it is a grapefruit infused tequila. Let's give it a shot.
Why are you drinking if you don't love tequila? Just because?
Because I had it.
Okay.
Somebody bought it.
How is it?
It's actually quite tasty.
Really?
Not bad.
I'm not a tequila girl. Every time I drink tequila, it goes down and comes right back up.
Well, so the very first thing, I wasn't a drinker, in high school. We'd sometimes go in my mom's bar and like with friends, and we would go and like try to mix things and like make a Tom Collins and use the mix and try to stuff. Yeah. I wasn't really a drinker. And then when I got to college, they drink like nasty beer, and I think beer is repulsive, so I don't drink it. So the first time I actually got literally super duper drunk as a freshman in college, it was on tequila shots with the our room and the room across the hall decided we were going to bond by all drinking tequila. And I got so sick that I literally, anytime I would smell tequila, it would make me nauseous. Same. Just the smell of it would make me sick. And it smells medicinal to me. It kind of smells like castor oil to me. And we used to have to take castor oil as kids, because, that was like a West Indian super medicine that they make you every month. We have a spoonful of castor oil and it tastes fine.
Sorry you had to do that. Ugh, castor oil. I've never had it. I don't ever want it. Yeah, but tequila, I get sick every time. The smell of it makes me nauseous. But when I was in Mexico one time, we toured a tequila, factory or whatever, a distillery. And the guy there told me, he said, well, you get sick because you've had bad tequila.
Yes.
he said, if you have, I don't know what they call it, more pure,
Casamigos,
more
baby.
pure tequila, he was saying that you won't get sick. And sure enough, I drank it there and it was fine. I mean, I was getting sick at drinking tequilas, and when I lived and worked in Houston, Texas, we called them crack margaritas. And baby, ooh, I tried to drink them, but they would just make me sick. And to this day, I want nothing to do with tequila.
And I don't drink margaritas for that reason. I just don't like tequila. But I'm telling you, we did a very similar thing once in one of our little machetes trips, and we did a tequila tasting, and they let us try all the different levels of the Casamigos. When it went up, they go up in price, like a $4,000 bottle. I mean, there's some really expensive Casamigos. So they were letting us sample the sort of range of the Casamigos. When I tell you, really high end tequila, as you said, really pure, very aged tequila. It doesn't have the smell. First of all, it doesn't smell as strong, and it won't make you sick. And it tastes not bad. If you're willing to pay the big money, but don't get you some cheap tequila.
The things I could spend $4,000 on, it would not be liquor. I can tell you that much. Okay. So let's move on to shit you need to know, because we do have some things we want to get to. And the first is ActBlue. And I'll set this up, but you definitely need to let the people know. So it is the leading online giving platform for Democrats. And it's major efforts are underway by y'all's president to kill this platform. It's a critical part of the party infrastructure. And there's a Black woman at the helm as the CEO. And she's also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, which I love. Now, Trump is calling on the Justice Department to investigate with unverified claims of illegal donations. And it suggested that officials from the company should be in jail, he said, I think in a post. I don't know if it was on Truth Social or on Twitter. Now, it's one of the biggest success stories in modern politics. It helps candidates running for school boards, everything from school boards to Congress. I just don't get how Trump has the audacity to focus on what he wants to call inappropriate behavior by the Democratic Party when he's got meme corns out there. Elon Musk is doing the things that he does. But tell people a little bit more about ActBlue, Joanne, just so people can understand the importance of this organization, because I had never heard of it until they started making headlines.
Yeah, and I mean, ActBlue, you said up to Congress, no, all the way up to president, because, when you gave money to Kamala Harris, right? Those like platforms that were being used to allow you to donate to Kamala Harris, that was ActBlue. ActBlue is just that they're the middleman. So if you are running for city council, for instance, you would get an ActBlue account. And then when people donate to you, it goes through ActBlue. They vet the donors. They don't just vet the donor to make sure it's a real human, to make sure they're an American citizen, that it's legal for them to donate, but that they're following the laws of the state. They get that granular. So if you're donating in Oregon, they know the laws are different there for donations in California, and they will actually take you through that process to make sure your donation is legal. The Trump side, the right wing, doesn't like ActBlue because they're very successful. They are by far the largest platform for any donations on either side. There's a right-wing version of them called WinRed. WinRed has about a third the volume of donations that ActBlue does. ActBlue is just that big and powerful. And they've been around for a really long time. And so the right has tried to replicate them with WinRed. But remember, they got in some trouble at one point because they were having people do automatic donations, and they had to then let people know, let's give you a chance to stop and not have it be automatic. ActBlue doesn't really operate that way, but they do allow you to do automatic donations as well. So WinRed and ActBlue do the same thing. But the right is claiming that just ActBlue is taking foreign donations and quote unquote money laundering and doing illegal donations. But they operate exactly like WinRed. So they're the same. How can you say that what they're doing is illegal, but what WinRed is doing is not? They're the same thing. But what they want to really do is do to ActBlue what they did already to Acorn. And I'm actually writing about this on my Substack right now. They were able to destroy Acorn, which was it was an organization, a nonprofit that focused on low-income Americans and doing everything from getting them to avoid predatory lending, to teach people about how to get lending that isn't preying on them, and to avoid those payday loans. And they did everything from that to helping people register to vote. They ended up having Congress investigate Acorn, defund it from getting any federal dollars, and destroying it because it was so successful at getting low-income Americans to vote. Without Acorn, voting among lower income people plummeted because they were the ones going door to door and helping people to register and helping people to turn out. That has helped Republicans. They want to do the same thing to ActBlue to make it harder for Democrats to win. What Trump is doing, he's trying to undercut anything that could cause opposition to him and that would let people defeat him or Republicans in future elections. That's why they're going after them. And actually the same entity, this thing called Project Veritas, has been using the same strategy they use with Acorn, which is like popping up on them with video and trying to catch them committing crimes. So just know that it's BS, but it's being done to make sure you cannot get rid of Donald Trump and Republicans ever. They want to stay in power ever.
What I don't understand is how Trump has the power to do something like that, because of what I've been reading about it, it seems like Democrats are very concerned why are they so concerned if there's no, I know there's no validity to what he's accusing. Right. So why are Dems so concerned about it? You know what I mean?
Because number one, the president of the United States is not supposed to send a memo to the Justice Department asking them to investigate anybody. The Justice Department is supposed to be completely independent. So for the president of the United States to ask the Justice Department to investigate anybody is a huge red flag. Number two, you know how the Justice Department works. They could charge anybody with a crime and say you committed a crime. And what would you do? How would you prove they didn't? Donald Trump claims that that's what Jack Smith did to him, that he invented crimes and then charged him with them. Donald Trump actually did encourage an insurrection. Jack Smith didn't make that up. Donald Trump actually did take home documents that belong to the United States, including classified documents, to his house and put them in his bathroom. That's a thing that really happened. But he claims that the Justice Department invented those crimes, that the district attorney in Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, invented that he committed the crime of giving that money to Stormy Daniels to shut her up before the 2016 election in order to quiet her down so he could win. That was all made up and it was fake, and that the prosecutions were fake. And that when the state of New York charged him with robbing the taxpayers of New York by lying about the value of his buildings to get lower insurance bills and then raising the value of his buildings in order to get tax breaks, that was all made up and a lie, and that it was the weaponization of government against Donald Trump. So what he's doing is he's now weaponizing the federal government. He's now weaponizing the Justice Department and using Pam Bondi, who's not a real AG. She's really just acting like she's Donald Trump's personal lawyer. So since he can get her to do anything, he can just say, make up a crime and say ActBlue committed it so I can get rid of them. He has now an attorney general who's willing to act as his personal hatchet woman. And so they can just make up crimes and say you committed them, and that's it. So that's why Democrats are worried, that they know she's not operating in good faith. She's just going to try to make up some crime, say ActBlue committed it, so they can get rid of their competition. That's
well, I hope Dems realize that they need to be more proactive and really bolder about the way that they fight these things. They had to know that this was coming, right? They had to know it was coming. I'd love for them to be stronger, file some lawsuits, or complaints against, some of these attorneys out here that are representing Trump. Have them disbarred, or at least do something to fight back. I'm so frustrated by it, and that's why I was asking you this question about this, because it's like, if they're not doing anything wrong, which I don't think that they are, why are they worried that it could go away? He may accuse them of something, like you're saying. He may utilize the Justice Department to come after them, but that doesn't mean that
the jury
is going to believe it.
But in the meantime, even if nothing is found, if you look at Acorn was never accused of committing a crime. But where's Acorn now? They don't exist, because they had to spend so much money fighting these congressional inquiries and fighting all of these investigations. They ended up going belly up. And so the fear is that ActBlue is going to spend so much money and so much time fighting a fake investigation that they'll go under, and then there won't be an ActBlue, and there won't be a way for Democrats to raise enough money in order to replace these Republicans and take back power. Just remember, at the end of the day, it's about power. And Trump wants to make sure that he and his Republican puppets stay in power forever.
Yeah. Well, moving on, Donald Trump and his executive orders just keep coming at us. And this one has a lot of folks concerned, except for Black MAGA people who feel like this is not going to impact them. And this is his executive order called Strengthening and Unleashing America's law enforcement, and he's sending out military, ICE agents, and others into cities across the country to enforce what people are calling martial law. And they're saying that he's ruling out, well, they're saying they decide whether or not you've committed a crime. They could pull up, grab you, lock you up without due process. That's my understanding of it. But you say anymore. And they say if a judge or an attorney tries to prosecute, let's say, an ICE agent, or anyone who's enforcing this executive order from Trump, that they could get in trouble, that they could be disbarred or locked up, or action could be taken against them. People are really concerned about this. They're calling it martial law. Is that accurate to say that this is martial law?
Well, I mean, he has not officially declared martial law. That has not actually happened yet. But what Donald Trump is doing with these executive orders, which, just to be clear, executive orders are not laws. Right. They don't create any law. They just are his memorandums of things he wants to do. But what people
But his people, let me just say this, but the people that are under him, they take action based on his executive orders.
Ding, ding, ding. That's exactly it. That's what that literally is. That the problem is that people that work for Donald Trump under him are treating his executive orders like they are laws that were passed. And Congress, because they are completely supplicant to Donald Trump, they're then writing laws to match his executive orders. So Congress on the House side, Republicans have written a bill that would essentially strip the jurisdiction of judges so that judges cannot any longer overturn his actions when he takes executive action per his executive orders, such as removing people from the country and sending them to an El Salvadorian prison without due process. Then a judge says you can't do that. Congress, the Republicans in Congress, want to strip those judges of the power to overrule Trump. So essentially, they would no longer be able to enforce federal law. They would only be able to act in their own district. This is terrifying because what it would mean is that there would be no judicial overview of Donald Trump's actions. He could just be a king and do whatever he wants. And this is Congress, which is supposed to be a co-equal branch of government, giving that power away. They also want to give away their power to be the one to enact trade deals. They want to say that the president can to enact tariffs. They want him to be able to just enact tariffs on his own without any oversight from them. What they're essentially saying is, we don't want to oversee this guy. We want to let this guy do whatever he wants. So how you get martial law without declaring martial law? You write an executive order saying, my administration, my ICE agents can pick up anyone they want, American citizen or not. And if they can't prove that they're not a criminal, I get to deport them. I get to arrest them. I get to detain them. I get to put them in a concentration camp in this country or a prison in a foreign country. No one can stop me. I write that executive order. Now, what should happen is Congress says, no, you don't. We're the ones who have the power of the purse. You can't do certain things without a law. And then you're supposed to have judges say, no, you don't. We're the ones who interpret the law. But if the judges get stripped of their power or won't enforce it, and the Congress says, we ain't in this, my name is Bennett, I'm not in it, do what you want, Donald, suddenly Donald Trump is the king of the United States and there is no rule of law. That is why people are calling it martial law, because to your point, Republicans are treating his executive orders as if they're the law. So if we're now going to see federal agents going into American cities and detaining anybody they want just based on
the military, which is even
even scarier. And they're not supposed to operate on U.S. soil. There's literally a Posse Comitatus Act in the Constitution that says military cannot operate on U.S. soil. He's saying, I'm changing all of that. I'm going to take away birthright citizenship and say that you're not a citizen unless I say you are. I'm going to put the military in your streets and let them arrest you. And I'm going to put ICE agents in the streets to arrest you. And he said in that ABC interview, I don't know if y'all saw it, I don't have to give people a hearing or the same due process that Trump got. Trump got 4 different sets of due process when he was accused of crimes. They're saying,
I wish one person would throw that in his face during an interview.
It would be nice.
I'm so frustrated. I saw that ABC interview and I'm just like, and I love that journalist, Terry Moran, but I just wish that somebody would interview him, and someone has. I mean, we were talking about it earlier today, but I wish American journalists would stop treating him so respectfully because he's the president, because he doesn't respect the office of the presidency, nor the rules of this country or the Constitution or anything.
Nothing.
He wants to be a king. He doesn't respect anything. So why does he deserve that respect in return? And, they're so busy trying to keep their jobs and get access that they're not doing their jobs. Challenge them, make them walk out. You know what I mean? I really would love to see someone just take him to task. Who was that British journalist we were talking about who we were like, yes, more of this?
This young man from Axios, and I'm of course going to forget his name in the moment, gave the best interview that Donald Trump has ever had. It's the one interview where he was on his back foot because the guy just wouldn't let him off the mat. But the reality is people are trying to be so respectful and deferential toward Trump because he's the president. And even when he was a candidate, they never forced him to justify the things that he's saying. And the things he's saying are batshit crazy. And unconstitutional. You cannot detain someone without giving them a hearing and allowing them to defend themselves. People are getting picked up off the street and challenged as to whether they're a citizen. And if they can't prove it, they get detained. That's not the way it's supposed to work. You're not supposed to be able to deport someone without giving them a hearing. And I will end here by saying this country has now already deported American citizens, including 3 children, one of whom was, I believe, 7 years old and a cancer patient who needs care. This is a child that has metastatic cancer and has been deported out of this country illegally. And they're doing it. And Trump said in an open microphone to Nayib Bukele, who is the self-declared dictator of El Salvador, the homegrowns are next. They want to deport American citizens. If you're a Black person or a brown person or an Asian American, no, they mean you.
Yeah. And people are just not taking this that seriously. It's unfortunate. Okay, let's move on to our Let's Talk topics. First up is TD Jakes announced on Sunday that he was going to be stepping down as the senior pastor of the Potter's House, his church of 30 plus years, mega church, I should say, and handing the reins over to his daughter, his beloved daughter, who's a celebrity on her own, well, much celebrated, I should say, and very popular, Sarah Jakes Roberts, and her husband, Touré Roberts, who have really taken the reins and been doing some things behind the scenes. After Jakes, we all saw the video. He seemed to suffer some kind of medical emergency on stage back in November. Turns out that was a heart attack. And so he finally made the announcement that he is stepping down. But like I said, he handed over his women's conference, so popular for years, to Sarah a few years ago. And she's phenomenal. She really has come into her own. And I'm curious to see what's going to happen with his media company. How many movies and books and television projects he's a part of. He's doing so many amazing things. But we do wish him well. In his retirement. We'll see, for a lot of folks, it's hard for them to retire, but he's still in decent enough health to do other things. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. Have you ever met TD Jakes?
I have met TD Jakes just once or twice at, I believe I met him at Essence Fest in the green room, but that's about it in person.
Yeah. No, I believe it or not, I have met him, but I have no great TD Jakes stories. I was at the Potter's House years ago with Donna Richardson, Tom Joyner's ex-wife. And she took me, because that's her church. She lives in Dallas, and we went there, and it is such an incredible experience to go. And TD Jakes is such a phenomenal orator, but also a visionary, and he's just so great. But his daughter, I can't say it enough, she really is phenomenal. She is just incredible on the stage, and she's more, she's overcome so much. She was pregnant at 13, dropped out of college, left her first marriage because of infidelity. And the thing that I love about her is she's so relatable, because she talks about those. She doesn't, a lot of people try to hide, a lot of people in the limelight try to hide experiences from their past that they feel are negative. But she used talking about those things as her testimony. And it just is incredible what she has built separate from her father. I'm excited about this. I feel like, I think for a lot of pastors, it's tough when there's no one for you to pass, the mic to, or the podium to.
And they often don't have a daughter.
And usually not a daughter, right? So, I mean, the girl, yes, a
All right.
woman stepping into this position is amazing. So I'm excited about that for her.
Okay. We
I
will keep
know.
a good weather eye on the J.
Listen, TD Jakes, if you want to pop on over to read this, read that, we would love to, host you, man. Come on through. And I know you have a heart out, but I want to talk about the whole Shannon Sharpe controversy. Shannon. He really has so much going for him, with his what's his podcast called? The when he had why is that escaping me? With this, you're like, I don't know. His amazing what is it called, Camille? His podcast. Huh? Club Shay Shay. Club Shay Shay. Camille's like Club Shay Shay. He was just really doing so well with that. It was such a breakout success. And he had just signed this big contract with ESPN, worth so much money. And he had to step away from that because a woman that he was, or I don't know if they were still involved, accused him of sexual assault. And, apparently he tried to, and she's very young. She's much younger than him. He's in his 50s. She's in her 20s, early 20s. And it's just
his granddaughter.
I mean, girl, it's just not cute. And so a lot of people have been talking about this. And I don't know. I've never met Shannon, but I was happy for him and what he was building on his own, with independent, you're doing independence media, Don Lemon, we are, me too. We're all kind of doing this independent thing. So it was good to see him really building something on his own that he owned, that he built from the ground up. And now everything's in jeopardy. And he is, he hasn't been talking a lot later, but a second woman has come out and accused him of sexual assault. So as far, as of this podcast, I only know about 2. I don't know if more women are going to come, but he has stepped away from the ESPN deal. I don't know if that will ever come back to him, but he seems to be pretty bold in defending himself. Like, I think the woman released text messages and he was like, or a tape, a recording of their conversation, a phone call, like she recorded their conversation. And he was like, put the whole thing out there. Like he seems to be standing 10 toes down on his innocence. So we'll see what happens. Like he seems like he's going to fight this because I think he offered her, if I'm not mistaken, $10 million early on before this became really public. And she said no. And now she wants, I believe, 50 million. Yeah. And they met at the gym. She's an OnlyFans model. And I don't know what else she does, but she's really, really young. I mean, these men's, girl, I can't. Why would you throw everything away with these young women? Why would you do that?
Make it make sense. The high wire these men walk on just for the little piece. They are so determined to have that. You know what it reminds me? It reminds me of Nosferatu. You ever seen Nosferatu?
I have not seen that yet.
Yeah.
But you've talked about it before. I have not seen it, but you say you absolutely love this.
No, I didn't love it. I didn't.
You did it?
I thought it was beautifully shot. I thought it was beautifully shot. But in the end, the daughter, sister, and I went to see it. The daughter and I went to see it.
Yeah, you didn't enjoy it?
We were at the end. What I realized is that I spent 2.5 hours watching a film that was essentially about a man who, though dead, was willing to crawl out of the grave and risk becoming dead again, but permanently dead, just to get that one little piece. He's like, I got to get this. And I'm so determined that I'm willing to physically destroy myself, meaning that while I am undead, though I am undead, I'm willing to risk being permanently dead. Give up my undead status to become permanently dead. Just to get it that one time from that.
But you know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of it. What the whole Shannon Sharpe thing makes me think of is, why can't more Black men move like Barack Obama, who was like, you know what? I have high goals. I want to be the president of the United States. So let me keep my nose clean. who knows what fetishes Barack Obama has? I'm not saying that he has any, but who knows the things that he could have done, wanted to do. But when you are a Black man in America, you cannot do what the Jeffrey Epsteins do. You can't roll it this way. You just can't. You have to keep your nose clean. And there's not much that I agree with, you know, that comes out of the mouth these days of Stephen A. Smith. But one thing that he did say recently about this Shannon Sharpe thing was find something on me that shows me in a mess. He keeps his nose clean. And I think that a lot of Black people, but Black men particularly, when it comes to sexual fantasies and the things that they want to do. Hello, P. Diddy. You can't move in this way in this country. It just is what it is. Bill Cosby. Look, the list goes on and on. You can't do what they do.
And here's the thing. What's your safest bet? And Barack Obama has shown this. And I want to also hail up Samuel L. Jackson. And I want to also hail up Denzel Washington. Because even if they've had struggles in their lives, those struggles have been fought through with one good Black woman. They keep that one marriage in that relationship in place that anchors them. And even through their trials and tribulations, even if you have challenges in your life, they have a rock upon which to build. And those relationships, I think, are incredible, honestly. And I will say that what I see is Jalen Hurts doing that and saying, this is my rock, this is my foundation. And I'm not running here after this, and that little piece of this, and that, because I'm just having this fetish in this moment. Let me build something. I think LeBron James has done that. And I think that it's smart because you're a target, not just of the media, especially if you're a Black man, a strong Black man. You're always going to be a target. You're going to be an extra target because you are Black, because you are a brother. But you're also going to be a target for women who see coins. They see you and they see dollars, potential dollars. There's a story now that the woman who Kanye West, I don't know if he made her go in a naked dress to the award show, even though we know he's mentally challenged. Or I should say has alleged mental challenges. I don't want to say he's mentally challenged. We'll say he's alleged to have struggles with mental health. We don't know that. He's got mental health challenges, but that's the allegation, is that he has mental health challenges. We just say alleged. But the woman that he took, his new wife or whatever, is about to get half his coins, half his fortune, because he decided he needed that so badly that apparently he did not protect himself legally. So at least protect himself.
I hope that's not the case. I haven't seen that legitimately anywhere. I did see those storehouse headlines, but hopefully not. But here's what I'll say about, I mean, I don't know about the marriages of Samuel L. Jackson or Denzel Washington or even LeBron James. But what I will say about that is I am not a fan of Black men getting with Black women and doing all kinds of shit, but they keep their marriage together, and women enduring a bunch of bullshit just so a man, you know, if they're giving into that and putting her through so much drama, I'm not a fan of that. Just because you've been married a long time don't mean shit to me. Right. There was a woman on Dear Future Wifey podcast who was sitting with her husband, and you probably saw this, where she was proud to be next to this man, and they had this long marriage, and she talked about all the things that they have been through because of his infidelities, and how she just knew, and I'm paraphrasing, that God was going to convince this man that this was where he needed to be, and she would iron his clothes as he was going out to see his side piece. Yeah, I'm not, I just would say that I'm all for, you know, Black men being like Barack Obama, because girl, I have never heard anything about that.
There attempts to put things out. I mean, I'm not saying I've never heard anything, but those things have always been cold water has been thrown on them.
Like nothing's ever bubbled up. I can't say that about everybody, a lot of Black men out there. So I don't want to sentence a Black woman to a long, just like, girl, we stayed together. We rode, I rode with him through this and that, girl. I lost, you know, this and that.
I hear you. But bottom line is, what we can agree on is if you're going to be out there doing living foul, you're gonna get caught, black man.
Yeah, pretty much. If you're gonna be out there living foul, don't marry a black woman.
You gonna get caught.
Marry somebody else or stay single. Don't drag no woman through all that mess. Shannon Sharpe is doing the right thing by staying single, at least. That's one thing. That's the one feather in his cap. Thank God he is not connected. Can you imagine being a black woman and then all this comes out? That's your husband and all this dirt he's doing. Stay single, Shannon. Stay single. I hope he, we'll see what happens, but stay single.
And scene.
Well, girl, about to join this show is one of my favorite people. And one of my favorite actors, but he really is just one of my favorite people. Always the same. Whenever I've bumped into him over the years, he always has the same kind-hearted energy. I first met him on the red carpet, but then after that, see him again and again and again. And I'm talking about none other than, I like to just call him Leon, but his government name is Leon Robinson.
And I just know him as Leon. I don't recognize.
It's like that. And his handle is just Leon, and it should be that. I will ask him if that's the legal thing. But you all know him from, legendary movies as Cool Runnings. The Temptations, The Five Heartbeats, the list goes on and on. He was most recently in The Shy. He's a member of an amazing band, which is, I think, still on tour right now, but we'll find out all of that. The one and only Leon, everybody. Hello, sir. Where are you? Are you in New York, LA? Where are you right now?
I'm in NYC.
Okay. I know you said you were helping your mom out with some stuff. Is she in New York as well?
Yeah, definitely. I'm NYC boy, born, raised, currently residing. My mom's here. My mom lives still across the street from my high school where I grew up.
Wow.
Oh, I love that.
High school. Now I got to know what high school you went to. I just need to know.
Mount St. Michael's Academy.
Okay.
That sounds fancy. Academy always it elevates.
Yeah. They put the academy on to make it sound fancy. It's a Catholic school. That's all.
Now, before we get into all the things you have going on, I have to, because I brought your name up on this podcast a while back because I was telling Joyanne about, I first met you on the red carpet at BET, right? Just you walking down the red carpet doing what you do. But then there was this trip that you were a part of that I was a part of. And I don't know if you remember this because you travel so much, where we went to Jamaica and it was with Russell Simmons and Kimora Lee Simmons. And he's probably like, I take so many trips, but it was like a bunch of us.
Especially Jamaica, someplace I lived 4 months
I know.
For 10 years. So I'm like.
But it was Loon, the rapper. It was like a whole bunch of us, but it was a crazy time because the hotel got quarantined because Kimora brought her dogs on a private jet. So the hotel that we were in Kingston got quarantined. But anyway, I remember that trip like it was yesterday. It was crazy. It was crazy times. But Leon, it's so good to have you here on the podcast. How's life? How are you doing?
Well, first, thanks for having me. Thinking of me.
Of course.
And of course, Joy, I don't think have we met in person?
It's so funny that I was actually telling my good friend Wanji on the trip here. We met very briefly many, many years ago, but you wouldn't remember it. You wouldn't remember me. I looked different back then. That's when I was doing as the producer of a reggae music show called Video Dub Plate back in New York. And we went to some kind of a party. I can't remember what it was, but you were there. There were some other like celebrity folks there. I think we were trying to cover it. Like we got in as press. Like we were literally, no one knew who we were, but you didn't know who I was. So there's no reason for you to remember that. But you were all at an event. And I remember saying to Jason, who's now my husband, who was, the co-director at the time. And I was like, that's Leon. And I remember saying hi to you, but you were like, hey, and that was it. So we met.
Okay.
A very auspicious meeting that meant literally nothing to you because
we're not gonna forget this. We're not gonna forget this meeting, that's for sure.
No, we're not. We are not. He's like, I don't remember these past things you guys were talking about, but I remember this.
You will remember this day. This is
I remember this day.
And you know what? You may remember the part. Actually, the other thing about it that's hilarious is that Janae was actually. This was an event Janae was at, and right. And I've recently met them as well, and it's a very similar kind of situation where I went to a party and one of the members of Jeanne was there, and I was like, oh my God, and I got a chance to meet her again too. So it happens.
Okay.
All of the 90s eventually comes back because it was the most important era ever in the history of Black people.
Let me tell you something. The 90s, boy, the 90s was fly.
Come
Yes, it
on.
was.
The
Wasn't
It
it?
really
90s
was.
fly.
It was.
And the thing is, I even tell my daughter, I said, I'm sorry to let you know, but you'll never ever have as much fun as we had.
Thank you. The 90s was so fly. Like it really was the heyday. I mean, it was some of the greatest Black movies ever made, the most legendary films, and you were in a bunch of them. You're talking about like it was a golden era of Black Hollywood. It was the golden age of Spike Lee, obviously. It was the golden age of hip hop, as far as I'm concerned. It was the greatest decade in hip hop history. And it just was an era that was just unmatched. And nothing has been as fly other than the Obama years was pretty fly to have a Black president. But other than
Yeah,
that,
but when I talk about fun, I'm talking about real fun, is because we didn't have cell phones.
that's
That's
right.
why it was fun.
Mm.
When we went to a party, we went to meet people,
That's
hang
right.
out, and dance.
That's right.
Okay,
And that was it.
and that was it. There was no communicating with people outside of where you were.
No
There was no
taking
videotaping
selfies.
yourself dancing,
No.
instead of dancing with the person you're with. I
That's
mean,
right.
we went someplace to have fun, and we had fun.
That's right. We were
Yeah.
in the moment. We weren't like living on our phone. We weren't constantly getting text messages, and we weren't like we had a beeper. Like remember that we had a beeper, but you had to choose to go to a phone and call that person back. Right? If you saw a beep, it was up to you whether you were going to engage or you could just put your beeper away. And also, let's be honest, we had money. The Clinton era was like good to us financially, so we had like cash in our pockets. We were in the club, especially in New York. Best decade ever.
If you
Yeah.
had a beeper and you was running out to the phone, usually that meant you know what it meant. Okay, you was
He was
doing
in that.
some
He
other
was in
kind
that
of dealing.
business.
Because exactly, because if you had a beeper, I never had one, but usually if you wasn't doing some kind of bit, you just looked to be like and keep on doing what you're doing.
Right. A beeper. Ooh, I hadn't thought about that in a long time. There were also some great television shows back then, but to Leon's
Yeah.
point, it was a great time because when you bumped into people, it was so organic. It wasn't because you were texting and saying, "Hey, meet me here. Hey, I'm going to be there." It was just, so much more authentic.
Without a doubt.
The fun. It was just so refreshing. So I agree with that. So let's start off talking about your music. Leon and the Peoples is a band that you've been a part of for a long time. I don't know if the tour is still ongoing. Tell us what's the latest with Leon and the Peoples with an S on the end.
So we're doing right now, we're not touring, we're doing spot dates. Like we're in San Diego next Friday. And then we're, well, you can go to our website. We're in all different places. We're playing different festivals from Augusta to you name it, wherever they want to book us, and I'm free. The problem with touring sometimes is that, I'm a working actor. I have 4 movies in the can that I'm starring in. And so, lots of times when I go away, the band, can't play. So, but, for the most part, we're just playing whatever, whenever we can, whenever we can. Sometimes, most of the times on the weekends, because this way I know that I'll usually be free.
Yeah.
You know.
How long have you all been together?
Well, I've had my band. We released our first album, I think, in '07.
Yeah.
And then our latest album was in 19. And then we're writing the new one now. So yeah, different incarnations of the band. It's not that band that I did the first album with is not the same players. Some of them come up with people that have been with me the whole time. But musicians are a very funny lot.
You don't say.
That was one of the hardest things for me to deal with when I was first started my band and stuff. Because in my business, in our business, time is important. Like, I have to be on time for work. If I'm going to the set and it's like 5 minutes or 3 minutes after the time I'm supposed to be there, I get a call, not from the production company, from my agent who they called.
Right.
Okay? So I'm like, you not to call my agent. I'm around the corner. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and so I would be, if I'd come in rehearsals and I'm rehearsing. Some people come to rehearsal an hour late, not even apologize, didn't care. I was like, oh, I can't do this. Oh, I can't do this. No way, no way, no way.
Right.
So that's actually got me to form my own band. because I was part of another band, and I was just these guys were just acting crazy to me. They're coming in anytime they wanted, didn't want to learn the material, wanted to play just cover songs. I was like, nah.
Not for you. Not
I
for
had to
you.
start. I had to start my own band.
So I got to put it all together because your band has been awarded, from outlets with a reggae music, sort of industry vibe. You're from New York. You went to Catholic school, and so the question that I am leading up to: are you or are you not Jamaican?
I am not Jamaican.
Oh,
I
see,
am
I
not
would have
Jamaican.
guessed you are
The,
Jamaican.
the Jamaican Tourist Board has called me Jamaica's best friend.
That's cute.
Yes, because I lived in Jamaica for 10 years. I lived there for at least 4 months out of the year. And even when they went down to scout Cool Runnings Disney, all across the island, people tell him, Leon, must be Leon. I love him. So they got back. Disney said, what is this with you in Jamaica? I mean, we haven't started casting yet, and they're already telling us who we have to cast.
Because they all think you're Jamaican. I mean, the reality is, I don't even think that you have said affirmatively on Read This, Read That you're not Jamaican or Jamaican. Another term from the 90s is gone away. I'm not sure people are going to believe you because, like Busta Rhymes before you, like Heavy D, you come across as a New York Jamaican person.
Well, you have to realize I grew up in a heavily Jamaican populated area. When I was 13 years old, I was hanging with Rastas, and Mount Vernon, New York, even the mayor is Jamaican. So
Come on, come
you
on.
know, so
You throw a rock at a group of Black people in New York, about a third of them is Jamaican. This is being real.
exactly, and half of them don't even know.
And half of them when you throw the rock, people say, "You throw that rubber bomb clot thing on me." Where's your dick miss?
Listen,
And
you
then
understand something. Look, you see this right here? You see this right here? Right
got?
before I finish with you, I just finished my Ackee saltfish, some dumpling.
You see that? No one's gonna believe you.
Where did the love affair begin for you in Jamaica, Leon? How did that start? With the movie Cool Runnings? You said even before that.
No. When I was like 12, maybe 12 or 13 years old, my friend Trevor, who lived next door to me, um, it's back when we had record players, and when you play things on a record player, it would just repeat over and over again, over and over
Yeah.
again. And that's when I heard the Natty Dread album by Bob Marley playing out his window. I was listening to it, and I just sat there and listened to that thing like about 4 times in a row. I was mesmerized, right? And from that moment on, I went out and just seeked every reggae record there was. From Junior Biles to the Heptones, the Mighty Diamonds. I mean,
That's old school.
Oh yeah, well, you got to start. You got to start in
Yeah.
the beginning. You know what I'm saying? And so I just loved it. I just loved it. So as soon as I made like my first movies, which was All the Right Moves with Tom Cruise,
Mm-hmm.
I had a little bit of money, got on a plane, went to Jamaica, and basically just found my way. And next thing you know, I had some Rasta friends, and I was just I just loved the life. I loved the lifestyle. I loved the people because there was so much love for music. Like everywhere you went, you just hear speakers on the streets and sounds, and I'm like, this is me,
I love
And
that.
so basically, yeah. So it basically, it was that's how I fell in love with it.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have
So let's talk about these projects that you're working on. Oh, go ahead, Joanne.
No, I was going to very quickly ask you because you seem to love
Yeah.
music so much, and you're also such a great actor, and people enjoy you and your acting. Do you have I guess it's like almost asking like a favorite child, right? Do you have a special love for music or acting more? Like which compels you more?
Yeah, that's the questions asked me a lot. I love them. Like you said, you can say, what child do you love more? You know what I'm saying? I love them both the same. I really do. Because you know why? I'm a trained actor. I went to school to act. That's like my career.
Yeah.
And my career is to take a writer's words and breathe life into them and create a character for you that's believable. That's what I do. When I'm on stage singing with my band, that's me. Those are my words. These are songs I want to sing, songs that I wrote. So they're entirely two different things to me,
Yeah.
acting and singing, and my love for them is the same. I love them both.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I want to talk about the projects you're working on so we can let the people know. And I know you've been shooting out of town, or you were like a couple of months ago. Were you working on Wild Cards with Elise Neal? Like, where are we with that project? Because I know
I
that, like,
think,
tell us the
yeah.
project you're working on.
Okay, so that project is finished. Wild
Okay.
Cards. It's a courtroom drama.
It's a thriller,
Um,
right?
yeah, it's a courtroom drama thriller. It's something that I and the director Wes Miller came up with. I had an idea of what I wanted to do. I never played a an attorney and tried a
Hmm.
case on television. And
Yeah.
so I said I'd love to do something like that, really contained, whatever else. And he wound up coming up with a script, collaborated on a bit, and next thing you know, I'm also one of the producers on it. And yeah, we did this movie called Wild Cards. It's a courtroom drama that is quite interesting. I think it's about a young black girl who has accused and a white man, a young white boy, of a very, maybe the most affluent man in town, of rape.
Mm.
And that, and his father, who was this big influencer in town and puts in a lot of money into the court system in the city, decides that, well, who should I get to try the case for my son? Let me get the top black attorney there is who hasn't lost a case in 20 years. And
Wow.
that's me. And it goes around a lot of different circles, and at least Neil plays one of the jurors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
I
deep.
love her. Have you all worked together before? I can't wait to see this. It sounds really good.
I'd worked with her many years ago. I think we did a play at one point many years ago. Um, but yeah, yeah. Because I don't really work with her in the movie because other than I give my closing statements and opening arguments to the jurors.
Yeah.
Right.
And she is
Yeah.
moved by that. What other projects? You said 4 movies that you're working on. What else is coming up?
Well, I said 4 movies that's in the can.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one. I have
Yeah.
a movie called The Rhythm and the Blues, which we premiered a version of it. Actually, this is the full length version. We premiered a version of it here at Lincoln Center at the
And
African
that's
Film Festival.
and that's the
And
Eddie Taylor
that's
story.
the Eddie Taylor story about the great blues artist Eddie Taylor from
Wow.
Chicago. And that one is I don't know exactly when they're going to finish the final version of that is. And then I have a movie called Jingle Hells, which is a Christmas movie.
I would hope so.
A Christmas movie in which I play a rapper from Brooklyn that moves to London. And it's a very charming story. It's a story of a rapper that moves to London who learns that spending time with his kids instead of just providing for them is more important than his career.
But wait,
Mm.
are we going to get bars from Leon in this project?
Oh, you're gonna get bars. You're gonna give me a little rap battle. You're gonna get a little bit of all of that, a little bit of all of that. But mainly, it's a charming story. It's a little charming story about learning how to deal with my kids. I have quite a few kids, and I have quite a few baby mamas.
I'm intrigued already.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
And last but definitely not least is a movie that actually may come out first. Is a movie. Last movie I just finished. It was an action film. It's called A Bloody Night,
Mhm.
and it's about a landowner who's had this land and this house and this family since his ancestors were slaves. And a big corporation has come in and bought out all the people in this $1 billion project, except for 2 families.
Mm-hmm.
And the day before the deal is about to be up, the 2 families that are holding out, one of them's house burns down with
Mm.
all of them in it.
Mm.
And so that night, they come in to take my house.
Mm.
But I'm an ex-military guy, and I've trained my kids and my wife to shoot guns. And when they come in, it ain't what they expected.
Not today, Satan.
Not today.
This is an
Leon,
ultimate.
is your voice on any of those apps that where you read and soothe people and like those calming apps? Because your voice would be perfect for that. Are you doing that anywhere?
I am, but you can only find them in women only shops.
That's somebody who knows his brand.
Who knows this brand well? That is funny.
Hey, lady.
Okay,
You ready to go to sleep?
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
we know. That would be something, though. That could be a read that side project. We'll get
Give him a
back to
call,
that.
Tom. Give him a call.
We'll reach out to your people about that.
All right,
He's
please
not
do.
the maker, but he ain't on anyway because he do plenty job and then do that job too.
So true, so true. I gotta ask you about a hot topic that's going on because I saw on your Instagram a picture with you and Shador Sanders. Are you what are your thoughts on all of that? Because you follow so many things going on in the news and you have so many connections and friends. What are your thoughts on that? As somebody who follows sports, I see you at the Knicks games all the time.
Right, I was there last night, unfortunately.
Well,
Long
Yeah.
time Knicks fan, long time sufferer. It just they just
Yeah, but no, but they've been doing good recently, and they're doing good now. We're still
they're
gonna
up
win
one,
this
right? I think
We're
they're
still
up
gonna
one.
win. Yeah, we're still gonna win this series. They just don't have they can't close out a series in the Garden for some
That's
reason.
right.
I
That's
found out last night it was 26 years
mm,
since the Knicks closed out a series in the Garden. They've closed out series, many of them, but
Yeah.
always on the other team's court.
And look, to me, I don't think I love the Knicks, but I will never get over the Patrick Ewing finger roll that ended the opportunity.
That was rough.
Speaking of
That was
Jamaican,
rough.
speaking
That
of
was
Jamaican,
rough. Yeah, I'm
he
friends with
went for
Patrick.
that
That was
finger
rough.
roll,
That
and
was rough.
it was
That
either
was
Michael
rough.
Jordan was playing baseball, so this was our shot. I say our like I'm on the team. Our shot, and he finger rolled that shot away, and I don't know if I ever forgive him.
Yeah, things happen. But back to Shador.
yes, please.
Back to Shador.
Yeah, I'm friendly with Dion, and I watched the whole situation. There's a lot of things to be in play here. One of the things that I didn't particularly care for was the media coverage of it. I thought the
What about it?
media I thought they were just putting too much on it. Why are they talking about it constantly? There are kids out here. This is the biggest moment of their life.
Yeah.
Being drafted. And every minute you're talking about Shador who's not being drafted.
Yeah.
I mean, let these kids have their flowers. Let these kids, and when this time comes, then you talk about him. Now
Yeah.
understand, and to the defense of people who didn't pick him, that's part of the reason why. He's coming with all of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't need all this. You're a rookie. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, so I thought the media just hung on it way too much. Just talked about it way too much. And instead of just leaving it alone and letting it happen when it happened. As far as him dropping in the draft, well, there's a lot of factors there.
Yeah.
How you play in college is how we know about you. But that's not the way the NFL evaluates you.
Mm-hmm.
They evaluate you after college when they start looking at your traits and things and how they think it's going to play out in the NFL. And, they're seeing things that they would not have seen before, But I think the biggest thing that hurt him, it appears to be, would be the opinion in which both him and Dion, to some degree, thought that he was. And there's nothing wrong with thinking that. But we all know this is not a college recruiting trip where they want you already and they're offering it to you, hoping you come here.
Right.
This is you're interviewing for a job that's they're gonna pay you up to $30 million for it. And not only that, you're gonna be one day the franchise player of this billion-dollar organization. So if he comes into interviews disinterested, not knowing the playbook that they asked him to study the night before because they want to discuss it with him, or deciding he's going to just flop some interviews because they've already decided they don't want to go to that team, well, you better be Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying?
You
Right.
better come. You better come
And
with
and
the
if, and if you
skill set,
also
right?
think that you also think that he meets with some general managers like that and doesn't have a great attitude, doesn't want to go there, isn't prepared, you don't think they talk to one another?
Yeah.
As soon as he interviews with the Giants, you don't think someone from the Bills and someone from the Jets. So how was it? How was Shador? They all know each other.
Yeah. They do.
Not
Well,
Do you?
not
now,
only know each other, they
now,
work with each other.
and now that well, he did get drafted. I mean, it was lower than he expected, but my thing is, I hope that he's learned from this. I hope everyone's walked away and learned from this experience, and I hope that he proves on the field for in years to come what a great player he can be. That he is and can be. But with that, Leon,
Oh,
we
wait,
are going to have to. Oh
oh,
yeah, yeah. Please, please,
I
please.
just have one more follow-up question for
Yeah.
you, because on that note, because you as a Black man that are in Hollywood, that's a famous person, that's been famous for a long time, the one piece of it, of the Shador story, that really bothers me is that
Mm.
I feel like if he was the son of the white son of a very famous player, or the sibling, because we've seen a lot of these family enterprises in sports outside of the African American community. And I never have seen the association of the son in that case with arrogance and with attitude, right? I think there's a different way that young Black men are perceived, or maybe I'm just being paranoid about it. But I felt like the same thing happened with Kobe Bryant, with the late Kobe Bryant, because Jelly Bean Bryant was his dad, and there was this sense, well, he's arrogant, right? You know what I mean? Like, arrogance is attributed to him because he's Dion's son. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Well,
Do you
I
that
don't
you
really
see
think
a
that because for one
confident
thing,
Black man?
if you think about Dion, right? Dion is loved. Dion is maybe one to consider maybe the top 3 living athletes. Okay, and not in anybody's gets. He doesn't get in any trouble. Shador has a clean record, no trouble, no nothing.
Mhm.
I mean, he's a good kid. Okay, so and he comes from a great pedigree. So
Yeah.
trust me, if a team thinks that he's going to help them win,
Yeah.
they
Fair.
don't care. Look at some of these athletes that have been drafted high. Some have been on murder cases, drunk, like, but they have something that is so great that they can't pass up because they know if they pass up, another team's going to take them and kill
Right.
them. So they're always going to go with it. The problem is he was oversold, and so what happened is they didn't see him that way. They didn't see him like it don't matter what he says.
Right.
He could throw up on himself. We picking him. No, that wasn't the case. You know what I'm saying? Now you can go back to the Eli Manning situation with Archie Manning, which a
That's
lot
right.
of people refer to. But you have to realize the Eli Manning situation was different in the fact that he was a surefire pick. He was
Yeah.
going to be number one no matter what happened.
Yeah.
And you got to know that Shador was saying he was the best quarterback in the country. Shador was saying he was the best one. And this is what I'm going to talk about in general. And I say this to everyone. Um, there's no FCC, so I can say anything I want here, right?
You can. Yes.
No one gives a fuck how great you think you are. We only care about how great we think you are.
That's fair.
Okay. And so when you start saying that to people, I mean, I was telling my friend the other day, and he was saying, "Oh, Leon, you so great actor." I said, "You ain't never heard me say I was great. You never even heard me say I was good. But I damn sure heard it a few times, and I love it." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And because it needs the people, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think when you start doing that, I mean, you got to realize here's a guy who has logos and everything, and his jersey, even his Browns jersey, is the number 3 selling jersey.
Yeah.
Okay, but he's got a thing. His whole line and everything about it is called legendary. He hasn't played yet.
Right.
So, and you have to realize he's a little undersized. Okay. He has a great pocket on, but, and I can also say this, if this draft was 4 or 5 years ago, he would have went in the first round easy because they wanted pocket passers. And he's a great pocket passer. Now you look at the top quarterbacks, they're all dual threats. They all can run just as well as they can throw. That's not Shador's thing. He's not super fast. He took more sacks than anybody in college. These are things that they look at.
Okay, when is your sports podcast launching? Because I'm going to listen to it.
Boy, people have been asking me that forever. I do some sports radios time to time. It's like that. I would love to do something like that because shit, I might as well, as much as I know, I might as well get paid.
Look,
Yeah,
right?
you really know.
Or sports podcast, either one, I think would do well. Leon, thank you so much. Thank you for indulging my additional query.
Thanks, Leon, for joining us. It's good to have you. Be well.
Definitely, without a doubt, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I'm telling you, life lessons with Leon would actually be
I love that. I love that.
He knows a lot about sports.
He does. I mean, he knows a lot about life. I wanted to ask him about co-parenting because he is a great dad to his daughter, Noelle, who is thriving. She's such a great young adult, but we'll have to have him back to talk about that because he's a great girl dad. They have such a special relationship. I love to talk to him about so many things because he's just so knowledgeable about so much beyond acting and music. It's just good. He's a great conversationalist. So we're glad that he was able to join us, and we're glad that you were here for Read This, Read That. And we hope that you take the time to subscribe and like and comment on our YouTube channel. But also subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and also on our Read This, Read That Substack. Please support and show us love.
Indeed. And make sure that you also, in addition to liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast, please like, subscribe, and make sure that you go to vegansexycool.com and Vegan Sexy Cool's Substack, because you're going to learn so much about being vegan and sexy and cool, so you can be all three at the same time. And also the Jackie Reed experience, where you will learn so much more about Jackie's life, career, all the fascinating things she has going. It's actually a gorgeous website as well, so you're going to enjoy both of those things. And also subscribe to Vegan Sexy Cool and to Jackie Reed on Instagram and all the things. Because why wouldn't you?
Thank you, cousin. And I will say to you all, for all things Joyanne Reed, where would you go but joyannereed.com, right? Because you go there, you get to subscribe to her Substack. You get to find out what's going on with her new show. You get her thoughts and musings on so many different things going on around the world. And you get to figure out where she's going to be throughout the day, because she's always doing something. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you next time.